Hi, Jennifer Starlight here. I just wanted to share with you a question someone asked me yesterday, and I thought, wow, that's not a question I never would have asked myself, but it's a good question. And the question was, how will I know, Jennifer, when I have transformed? Meaning, how will I know when I've transformed my negative belief systems, my debilitating emotions? And I had to think for a minute. And as I said, I thought that's a really good question because the mind needs some sort of gauging system or confirmation that it's on the right track. And that is totally understandable and is actually necessary. So before I go into how will I know when I've transformed, I'd like to just share with you how you will know you haven't transformed. The first thing is you'll know you haven't transformed because you're getting triggered by the same situations, the same people, the same emotions, reacting the same instead of responding when you are triggered, when you are made to feel angry, because this is the hardest part of transformation, is actually taking full responsibility for everything we feel and not being a victim anymore. Because in our Western society, we are being fed victimization morning, noon, and night. And what that does is it separates you from your inner power. And that's why responsibility is such an important step, because the truth is responsibility is actually responding to your abilities as a divine intelligent soul. So it's really important to take responsibility, because the truth of the matter is no one can upset you. You upset yourself. And again, that is a really hard thing to take on board, but I promise you, once you do that, you're going to start to find your freedom. And freedom, true freedom, is actually being 100% responsible for ourselves. Yes, we're being taught being responsible is a burden and a struggle and a pressure. But the truth is we can't be responsible for anybody else and how they react. We can only be responsible for ourselves. And being responsible also means responding to a situation, to open ourselves to understand the deeper meaning instead of reacting and projecting onto somebody else. So that's the first thing. If you're continuing to be triggered, the same triggers, the same jealousy, the same anger, the same doubt keeps coming up, well, then you need to sit with these energies and have a conversation with them. And I mean that in all seriousness, because these energies, these emotions are our angelic messengers. And in Diamond Light numerology, I teach you, until you really get it, that all the emotions, no matter how bad they may feel at the time, are not wanting to be there any more than you want them there. And they're trying to alarm you to where you have unplugged from your heart and soul. In other words, the divine omnipresent being that you truly are. The second reason that you will know that you haven't transformed is saying to yourself, when something does come up, oh, I thought I dealt with that. That's probably the worst thing we can say to ourselves. And look, I've been guilty of that in the past too, until Spirit told me otherwise. I really thought, wow, if only this feeling of sadness or grief or anger would go away. But what happens is, when we believe we have to deal with the emotions and we're actually judging them and not understanding them, then they're going to amplify themselves to huge proportions. So then we magnetize to us bigger dramas, bigger reasons to have bigger emotions. Because the emotions have their own consciousness and your physical body has its own consciousness. And in the transmission I did last Sunday, the Min Masterclass and messages from the masters, they go into depth in this. So if you want deeper understanding on this, I'd suggest getting that recording. So the more we ignore the emotional body, the more it's going to try and get our attention. So it will usually start by creating bigger dramas outside of us to try and get our attention, sending us people in new relationships that we believe are creating far more drama than the last relationship. And if that doesn't work, then the emotional body will start to use the physical body as a vehicle, trying to get movement for itself. Because ultimately, the only thing the emotional body requires is movement and acceptance. It is that simple. So if you're going through, for example, a time of a lot of anxiety at the moment, anxiety is not the problem. Anxiety is the messenger alarming you to where you have belief systems that are causing you to be anxious. We can try and get rid of anxiety, talk our way out of it, counsel our way out of it, medicate our way out of it, drug our way out of it, but it's going to find another way to present itself. Because anxiety is a divine messenger alarming you to whatever you're doing or thinking is not in alignment with your true self. So anxiety, which is very high in the Richter scale for a lot of people at the moment, is still a messenger. It's our resistance to hearing the message that is the problem. The anxiety, for example, is not the problem. It's our resistance to listening and going into self-inquiry. So you'll know when you have a transformed major emotional charge in your body, because A, you won't be reacting, you'll be responding. The deeper you transform, the more compassion you are going to have for the people who are triggering you. The more gratitude you are going to have for the people who are triggering you. You are going to take full responsibility if you do have an emotional response. And it will be a message for you that you are still out of alignment on a deeper level. Now, there's a fine line here, something that's taught in a lot of spiritual circles is that, you shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't be feeling sad if you're on the true spiritual path. You shouldn't be feeling grief if you're really connected to, your soul and your guides and you're an evolved being. That is not correct. It really is not. The emotional body is the bridge between the mind and the physical body. It has a place. And if we could embrace our grief, for example, and not try to shove it down, if we can honor and acknowledge those emotions as they come, then they're not going to become big bad monsters that we're trying to deny. They are actually going to make us feel better. And I can vouch for it myself, and I'm sure a lot of you can. After a really big cry, wow, you just feel so much better. You feel so much lighter. And I know, even as a professional psychic for over 30 years, when I did allow emotional release without even needing to know what it was about, I just felt sad, for example, and I just let the tears flow, or I was feeling anger and I took full responsibility and used that anger as a catalyst for change in my life. Whatever it was, whatever the emotion, when I allowed it to move itself, my psychic abilities would be so much clearer. Because the first thing I teach in psychic development is if your emotional cup is clogged and overflowing with denied energies, emotions, you cannot access your psychic abilities nearly as clearly. I promise you that. So it is really important to keep that emotional body flowing. You've come here to be a human being, and part of being a human being is having the ability to feel to a great depth. The other thing you're going to find when you have transformed the majority of the energy is your diet could change, your sleep will be better, you're going to have more energy, your body is going to be filling with the fifth element called light. You will be a lot more intuitive. You will feel a lot more connected. You will be a lot more tolerant of other human beings and their behavior. However, you will not be impacted by it. And you will be feeling such a depth of self-love and self-worth that you won't judge them, but out of love and honor for self, you don't put yourself in those situations. And B, it's basically impossible to attract them in the first place. Because when you are clear emotionally, and yes, you're going to have your off days, there's a thing called biorhythms. But it's about honoring those off days, those emotional days. It could be planetary, black moon, I feel tired, I just want to go sleep. That's also honoring the emotional body and the physical body, for example. But I'm talking in general when you've transformed. It's impossible for you to attract the drama in your life anymore because you haven't got the drama denied and repressed inside of you. Now, with a full moon in Scorpio, we're coming into, new moon in Scorpio tomorrow, and we're coming into Scorpio season. This is the perfect time to do this deep, deep transformation, to give your emotions permission to start to be heard, felt, and allowed to move themselves. Mother Nature is another wonderful way to transform the emotional body and to nurture your physical one. So get out in nature. Give your soul permission to help you to discover the emotions inside of you. Drink plenty of water. Water is representative of the emotional body. Have the right intention that you want to love and honor the emotions. And this is the quickest way to transform the deepest of things. And I'll get on another call and share with you the deeper aspects that a lot of you are going into now. A lot of you are going into what I call in Diamond Light numerology, your original human wound, which is the deepest wound we all carry through many lifetimes, but I'll leave that for another day. So there's nowhere else to go, guys, but to transform, and you will know that you have transformed because life is going to get a lot lighter, a lot brighter, and you are going to see that the people you believed hurt you when you thought you were a victim, when you take full responsibility, you're going to see those people and love and be grateful for those people for being your greatest healers and teachers. I promise. So take a breath. It's time to dive deeply and beautifully into that inner being. So take care. Lots of love. Talk again soon. Bye.